All right, hi all. We're going to be talking about some short FRQs practice. What are FRQs? Especially if you haven't been in an AP class before, or you just have never been in an AP class that requires FRQs. So FRQ stands for free response question. And the reason why we're practicing these is because they're actually part of the exam. So the AP exam, which is going to be in May, TBD if it's going to be virtual or in real life, we'll see. But there's two sections to the exam. The first section is multiple choice questions. Like you all already know, there's going to be 80 questions in an hour and a half, so that's a little bit more than a minute per question. And this is 60% of your exam score, right? And then after that, you get a super short break, and then you have section 2, which is all of the free response questions. So the FRQs, you're going to have 3 of them, and you'll have an hour and 10 minutes, and you have to budget your own time for the 3. So we're going to be practicing them. That's why we're also practicing them timed. But the idea here is that these 3 questions, these free response questions, make up 40% of your exam score. So it's super important that we practice both multiple choice and FRQs because it is a skill that you need to be able to practice and learn. So what are the FRQs about? There are going to be 3 free response questions, like I said. The first question is going to be design your own investigation sort of deal, where you'll have some sort of problem or prompt, and you'll have to maybe talk about, like, what could you do to set up an experiment? What would your hypothesis be? What are your different independent, dependent variables? So you have to know the scientific method, and you have to know science practices and lab skills in order to be able to design this sort of investigation. The second question that you'll see is analyze an environmental problem and propose a solution. So they'll give you something, you'll have to talk about problems, you might have to talk about causes or effects, and then you'll have to talk about some solutions, some actual real life solutions. You might have to talk about pros and cons, things like that. And then the third question is super similar to the second one, except they're adding math along with it, doing calculations, which is why we're also practicing those calculations as we go. All right, so what do they look like? On the left side here, you have an example of one FRQ question. One FRQ question has multiple parts to it, like A, B, C, D, E. It was super crazy last year. They had like A through M or something for one question. So the questions are kind of long, which is why we're going to practice them and also practice pacing ourselves through them. You'll see that it has different like verbs that it asks you to do for each question, like describe or identify or justify or calculate, right? Those all mean different things, and we're going to talk about those as we continue to practice these FRQs. On the right side of your screen, you should see kind of like a sample rubric that the graders will use when they grade your FRQs for the exam. It will have like points assigned to it. So like you'll get 1 point if you said this thing, or this question or this part is worth 2 points, and it's 1 point for this and 1 point for this, and things like that. So it'll break down specifically what you need. The tough thing about AP Environmental Science FRQs is that they're super specific and they're really looking for specific things. And so we are going to practice that together to hopefully get the best score that we possibly can. Okay, so your turn. You're going to practice some short FRQs, and I don't expect these to be perfect because we're just starting out, but I would love for you to do this on a piece of paper or in a notebook. So I would love for you to handwrite it. If you cannot handwrite it, please let me know in advance so that we can make alternate arrangements. But we're going to practice snippets. So like you saw a whole FRQ with A through F. We're going to practice just like an A or like a B. So we're going to just practice little parts of this. Here's what you need to do. Make sure you write in complete sentences because you'll have to write in complete sentences for the exam. Otherwise you won't get credit. Seriously. The second thing is that you need to make sure you answer all parts of the question. If it says this and this, make sure you do both, right? And then pay attention to those verbs that I mentioned before, whether it's asking you to list something or describe or explain, justify, analyze, calculate, show, that sort of thing. So if it asks you to list something, still do it in a complete sentence, but you can just list it. So the 3 categories of this are blah, blah, and blah, and then you'd be done. If it asked you to describe something though, that wouldn't be enough because you just listed it. So you'd have to say the 3 categories are blah, blah, and blah, and blah means this, blah means this, and blah means this. So you would describe what they are. Explain starts to add in even more. It's like a 3rd layer. So you might need 2, 3 sentences to explain something. This just like talks more about the how and the why and the reasoning behind all of those things that you talked about. So it just goes like a little bit more in depth. Justifying something means you got to back it up. Back it up with evidence, back it up with any data that you have in graphs, any things that you've learned in class, that sort of thing. And then analyze, of course, is just like taking a closer look at things, really nitpicking individual parts and pieces and things like that. If anything asks you to calculate, you need to show your work and then make sure your answer is really clearly visible. You could maybe box it or things like that. And then also don't forget your units. All right, so on the Google Slides that I attached is this same presentation, but also your FRQ practices. There's going to be 4 short ones. So here's FRQ 1, 2, 3, and 4. What I want you to do is on your piece of paper, your notebook, label it FRQ number 1, and then go ahead and write your answer. You don't have to copy this on here. But again, make sure you pay attention to what it's asking for, answer all the parts, etc. It's up to you whether or not you want to do this with notes, but I would kind of recommend that you try it without notes and see how you do. Okay. Great. So that's all for this bit. I just wanted to thank you for watching the video all the way through because I know some folks are not. So if you watched the video all the way through, I want to give you a little bit of an incentive. I want you to, on this FRQ practice that you are taking a picture of and turning in, at the top of your paper, very top, I want you to write the word apocalypse because, you know, that's how I'm feeling today. So apocalypse, and that's going to be kind of the secret word or phrase. And if I see that on your paper, there may be a little incentive for you. So thanks for watching all the way through. I will see you all very, very soon. Stay safe, stay indoors if possible, and take care.